What's going on, Crimson Tide fans? Chris Daughtery here with the Alabama Football Report by Chat Sports. Before we get into today's show, I want to ask you guys to go over to Twitter and go ahead and give me a follow. Post all of our videos here that we do on the Alabama Football Report over on my Twitter page. So if you don't get the push notification on Twitter, should be able to see it over there as well. Trying to get over 300 followers on my Twitter, so help me out. I would like to talk to you guys in the comment section over on Twitter as well. To help me out, go ahead and give me a follow over on Twitter. That's at Chris Chat Sports. All right, the first thing on today's show, Adam Spensor of Saturday Down South ranked the top SEC teams, and he started from worst all the way up to best and had Alabama actually outside of his top five for now anyways. Let's go ahead and dive into what he's got here. 16 through 9 to start off here. Mississippi State, Kentucky, and Arkansas. Vanderbilt also just to round out that bottom four right there. Got no real issues with that right there. Got Tennessee there at 12. You know, it's going to be interesting to see how they really fare after losing Nico Iamaleava and as well as Dylan Sampson to the NFL draft as well. I think Dylan Sampson and their defense last year was really what carried that team a lot. It's going to be interesting to see how, that team can really rebound this year. Got Missouri down there on 11. They can always be kind of a hit or miss team. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're awful. Sometimes they're awful, but they beat good teams as well. So never really know what the case is going to be there with Missouri. I think he's got South Carolina a little bit too low there. I've actually got South Carolina as an upset alert type of team for Alabama next year. You go to South Carolina, it's also going to be their homecoming game as well. I really like what Shane Beamer's got going down over there in South Carolina. Auburn, I'm just going to be completely homer here. They should be a little bit lower. I think they've got the talent. I just don't necessarily believe in their coaching staff, but Auburn's another team kind of like Missouri. They can be trash and still beat good teams. So never know what, is going to be there. But that's what he's got there. 16 through 9. And then you go 8 through 6 here. Oklahoma at 8. Florida at number 7. And then Alabama sitting there at number 6. I don't really, totally disagree with his reasoning as well here with having Alabama at 6. Do think they should be a little bit higher just because I'm going to be completely honest. I'm a homer here. I'm an Alabama fan here. I think Alabama's going to be probably a top 2 or 3 team here in the SEC this season. All kind of comes down to that quarterback situation, I think, for the Crimson Tide. This is what Adam Spensor said about Alabama and kind of why he has them sitting there at that number 6 spot. He said, if Alabama had its quarterback situation sorted out, it would be much higher in the rankings with Ryan Williams, Germie Bernard, a strong tandem at that wide receiver spot. The defense has studs all over the field, but I want to see this offense in action with its week 1 starting quarterback before I bump the Crimson Tide into the top 5. Now, I do think that is kind of a fair take there, but I don't and I also don't necessarily I don't necessarily agree with some of the other rankings on that list. Like, I thought Auburn should be a little bit lower, as well as, maybe Tennessee, South Carolina, maybe a little bit higher there. But I do think Alabama's defense is going to be really, really good this year. The offense has still yet to prove themselves. Hopefully with the talent that you have at that wide receiver position, at that running back position, hopefully your offensive line can play a little bit better than it has in years past. But I do like what, you have along the offensive line. Still some question marks at that right tackle spot with Wilkin Formby. How is he going to be able to, just get better and improve from last season? That left guard spot, still don't know exactly what you're going to have there yet. But, everything always just comes down to that quarterback position at the end of the day. Not just for Alabama, but for all of these teams. And as we dive into, the rest of his top 8 that he has here, I think LSU and Texas are probably the only teams that, don't necessarily have questions of, okay, who is actually going to be the starter at that quarterback position? You have Oklahoma. They've got John Mater. He ended up, transferring in, I believe. Don't necessarily know what's going to happen there. Florida, DJ Lagway, he's kind of always hurt. Don't know when he's actually going to be able to throw the football next. So there is a question mark, with Florida there. Alabama, obviously, Ty Simpson, Austin Mack, Keelan Russell. Texas A&M, everybody seemed to hop on the Marcel Reed train. looked really good against LSU, but that's because he was kind of running all over them and didn't really do much after that, and kind of everybody was able to do that against LSU last year. Jalen Milroe did it the very next week against LSU. So I still think there's a question mark there with Marcel Reed at Texas A&M. Ole Miss has to replace Jackson Dart. We'll see kind of what direction they go there. I guess Georgia is going to have Gunnar Stockton at that quarterback position, which that's a massive question mark. They also really like Ryan Puglisi there, so there's still question marks there. And, you look, Garrett Nussmeier is going to be the quarterback for LSU, but I'll be completely honest, I think he's cheeks. I think that, he's got a lot of really good traits at that quarterback position, but there's always just multiple plays in these games. You saw it all last season where you're like, dude, what the hell are you doing with the football? He goes through reads, and if he gets all the way to that third read, he's going to throw it to that guy, whether there's a defender standing there or not. So I still do think there's question marks there with LSU as well. I also don't think Brian Kelly's a very good coach. I'm just going to straight up say it. I think Notre Dame made him. I don't think he made Notre Dame. You saw that with Notre Dame going to the national championship this past year with Marcus Freeman. I think he's just extremely overrated. And then Texas, I agree. They're probably the best team in the SEC this year. Still, there's also question marks there. I think Arch Manning has a very, very high upside, but at the end of the day, he still is very unproven. So let me know here in the comments section, kind of cooked right there on LSU, but let me know who will win the SEC in 2025. Is it going to be the Crimson Tide? Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section of today's video. It is the pinned comment, so get down there. That ad's going to come here on YouTube. Let me know what you guys think. All right, I also kind of wanted to touch on the quarterback situation around the country here. Greg McElroy dropped his top 10 quarterbacks coming back to college football this year. He's got Cade Cubelic of Clemson at that number 1 spot. I kind of tend to agree with him. I think Cade Cubelic, finished off the season last year Klubnik, excuse me. I stay mispronouncing his name. That's my bad. I see Stone just laughing at me over there. I think he's got a really high season. I thought he finished the season pretty strong last year for Clemson. John Mater, he transferred in from Washington State, threw for over 3,000 yards for them. So we'll see kind of how he's going to do with Oklahoma. Definitely think he's an upgrade at that quarterback position for them. Number 3, you got Sam Leavitt there at Arizona State. He had a pretty decent season last year with Arizona State, bringing them to the college football playoffs. Drew Aller at Penn State, I get it. He's got traits, but, man, I see him just dirting too many footballs. I just don't think he's as accurate as a lot of people think. I think he makes a lot of mistakes. So, we'll see. I'm not saying that he can't get better, but right now I'm not seeing it for Drew Aller. I already cooked on Garrett Nussmeier. Carson Beck, I think Ty Simpson's a better quarterback than him. We've seen what Carson Beck is. I don't necessarily think, maybe at Miami he could be a little bit better. We saw what they did last year with Cam Ward. I really do like Lenora Sellers as well. I think he's got a lot of upside. He's still got to get better in terms of that passing game, but Lenora Sellers, man, I thought he showed a lot of promise last year. I'll be honest, I know nothing about Sawyer Robertson over at Baylor, so I'll just take Greg's word there. And then DJ Lagway, man, he's always hurt. Is he going to be on the field? We'll see. I don't know. He's got that shoulder problem right now. I don't think he threw all spring. So, DJ Lagway, he's a guy that's got a lot of talent too, but, the best ability is availability, and DJ Lagway just hasn't been available that much for Florida. And then Haynes King at Georgia Tech, he was able to run their offense pretty well last year, so I don't really want to cook on him too much, but I think Ty Simpson should be on this list at the end of the day. I think he's one of the top 10 quarterbacks going into the country. I get it, he's unproven, but there are also guys on this list who, in my opinion, are also unproven as well. We're going to continue with our show here in just a second, but I want you guys to go over to Fanatics and get set up with your Alabama football jerseys. You can get those customizable jerseys right there. They got the white, they've got the crimson. They also have alumni jerseys as well. I know right now in the world of, the transfer portal, there's a lot of guys you may not necessarily want to go out there and buy a guy's jersey if he's going to hit the transfer portal, but you can also get those alumni jerseys as well. Julio Jones just retired. You can go ahead and show him some love. Go get a Julio Jones jersey. Why not? Just go over to chatsports.com/Alabama jerseys. They've got them on sale right now for up to 30% off. That link will be in the comment section and the description of today's video. And there should also be a little clickable link over there in the corner of your screen as well. All right, next up on today's show, Paul Finebaum went on the Greg McElroy and Cubelic in the Morning podcast, and he said that, and I kind of agree with this, that Alabama's ceiling next year in 2025 should be a national championship. I'll get into my opinion here in just a second, but this is what Paul Finebaum said on what he thinks Alabama's ceiling is going to be. He said, I think at Alabama, the ceiling is national championship. Breaking news. I hope nobody had to pull over on the interstate when I said that, but I think the most important goal should shift to eliminating the clunkers. Yeah, no duh, right? Like last year, Vanderbilt, Oklahoma, those games were inexcusable. There's no way to escape that. So before we get into my comments here in just a second, let me know, can Alabama win a national championship with the current roster that they have right now? Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Type Y for yes or N for no. Let me know what you guys think. All right, this is not something that I say very often, but I actually agree with Paul Finebaum here. I think Alabama was able to retain a ton of their starters and even fringe starters from that season last year. Start off, just on the offensive side of the ball. Jam Miller at running back. You got a lot of guys behind him as well that I think can be really good. We just haven't necessarily seen that yet. Germie Bernard, Ryan Williams. You upgraded also by getting Isaiah Horton out of the transfer portal. Really hoping, he doesn't end up flopping kind of like Malik Benson did a couple seasons ago. The hype around him was really high. I don't think that's going to be the case, but I did kind of just want to throw that out there as well, just because there was a lot of hype behind Malik Benson, but I do think Isaiah Horton's going to be better than that. Your offensive line should be really good as well. The defensive line has a lot of really solid potential there. James Smith, Tim Keenan, Jeremiah Beeman looked really good in the spring as well. So hopefully Alabama can stop the run more consistently than they did last season. Your linebackers, your defensive backs should be really, really good. If this team can stay healthy, they have a very, very good roster. And the team chemistry right now is extremely high. I think it was Nick Kelly a couple days ago reported, Alabama was the only team in the SEC that did not lose a single scholarship player. And I wonder if they're the only team in the country that could actually say that. So the buy-in is really high right now this season for these players. Last season might not have been able to say that, exact same thing. I think there were a lot of questions last season. The past two national championship winners, Ohio State and Michigan, both of those teams were really loaded with older players on the roster, with a lot of experience that they were able to retain. So this Alabama team really does fit that exact same mold. And, with a longer season, with the college football playoffs being expanded, the more experience and depth that you have can go a very, very long way in winning a national championship.